Greetings, fellow midnight travelers from the east and back out west. You are tuned in to the best. This is Spaced Out Radio Saturday.
We're your hosts, John and Stacy Edwidge, broadcasting live from the secret SOR Appalachian Mountain installation.
We welcome you to tonight's show, including Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Just do me the favor and click that subscribe button.
The website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a ton of goodies for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shop at the Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the SOR Newswire, and so much more.
Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our websites.
Ross Allison is an author, paranormal investigator, media host, lecturer, teacher, and even a tour guide. He's the founder of Advanced Ghost Hunters of Seattle-Tacoma, a ghost, and now runs AGHOST Investigations. Ross travels internationally to investigate paranormal activity, collect ghost stories, research cemeteries, and teach others about the strange things going on all around us, which there's quite a few these days. He has written and co-authored several books, including Spooked in Seattle, My Haunted Journal, Tacoma's Haunted History, and Haunted Toys. Ross also has a connection to one of our old friends, David Weatherly, as they've collaborated on many projects. And something else about Ross, he's basically investigated my bucket list of everything that anybody who's ever followed us has seen me write down as places I want to investigate. So hopefully we'll get to talk a lot about that.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Love Seattle.
Third hour. All right, Ross, are you there, man? How's it holding up in the West Coast? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were actually talking before we went on the air here, and Ross was just, basically going right through the everything you can imagine as far as getting out of New York and then getting out of Canada and just right in the nick of time to get back to being quarantined at home.
Yeah, I was sent out to, I was actually in New York because I had a lecture for Friday the 13th. And so I was heading out to the college. And so as I was heading out to college, I thought I'd hit some, haunted locations along the way. And the sad fact is this is when everything started blowing up with the virus. And so the day before my lecture, they actually closed down the campus. So they had canceled my lecture when I had, already flown out there. And then, so I thought, well, I still have, now I have some extra time. So decided to go up to Canada and check out Toronto. And as soon as we got up to Toronto, we started hearing word that they might be closing down the border. So we thought, we better head back. So the day, right when we got back, the next day, they actually had closed off the border to Canada. So,
oh man,
yeah. But
glad you got back and glad you're, safe.
Oh yeah, no, it was, scary times definitely, but we still got to do some amazing things on that trip too. So stayed at some haunted hotels, and the one thing that I do have to say, which was pretty kind of exciting, granted, these are hard times now for everything, but during all this, this lockdown, and we found that all these really 4-star and 5-star hotels were selling rooms for $50 a night.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so I get to stay at these really nice, grand hotels on this trip. So that was the cool thing about it, and a lot of these hotels were even haunted as well. So yeah.
Yeah, man, that's always look for the silver lining. I like that. So
there you go.
I don't believe I make this a rule of mine. I don't believe in coincidence, but I have to point out the irony on something. We're investigating pretty much Mr. Seattle here as far as paranormal goes, in my opinion. In my opinion's all that counts right at the moment. That's just a little joke, but the right now on the East Coast where we're at, it's April 5th. It just turned past midnight, and that, of course, is the what is it now? 26th anniversary, I believe, of Kurt Cobain's passing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
That's right. So a little bit ironic, just not that I'm a fan of, early 90s Seattle music or anything, which, I'm actually a Mother Love Bone fan though, but just huge fan. I was, in reading your book and going through many things that you've done, Kurt Cobain's bench has always been kind of interesting to me, because my question is, if somebody owns the boards now, I mean, is it haunted there? I mean, have you visited that yourself, or how does Kurt Cobain's bench really hold up?
Well, I think a lot of it is, the story was that before and again, I don't know if I believe it was suicide or not.
Me either.
There's just a lot of, interesting stories when it comes to his case. And so, the thing is it has always been a story that, before he committed suicide, that he had hung out at that bench, which was just, right next to his house. In fact, When you sit at the bench, you can actually see his house. You can see, the back of the garage where that all happened. So there have been a lot of stories about, people claiming when they drive by, they see somebody sitting on the bench and somebody who looks like him. Now, when I did that story, this was just all based on what, people had been telling and the research that I had found. But it is a situation where you also have this collective, emotion brought to one place. Not necessarily Kurt Cobain himself, but from all of his fans. Mm-hmm. So when you have all this emotion brought to this one place where people have focused their attention to. And yes, the first bench was actually torn apart. And one gentleman had collected the boards when they actually tore that apart. And those boards were all signed by fans. Mm. These boards easily are soaked in their tears.
Right.
As they, sat at this one place next to his house where he, this, I should say, just tragic event took place. So, when it comes to paranormal phenomena, just that alone could draw in some sort of, entity itself. Is it Kurt Cobain, or is it just a residual energy that we have brought forth, from all of us, collecting on that energy or pushing forth that energy for such an emotional and dramatic situation?
Right, like so many paranormal places.
Right, exactly. And that could be the theory behind a lot of these places, where it may not be the ghost of that individual that we want it to believe it is, but it's just this collective emotion that we have all put and focused all this energy, and we produce this phenomena ourselves, kind of like residual hauntings. Right. Where if something happens over and over again, somehow that will continue on over and over again.
Isn't that the place that I remember when Courtney Love was on MTV and reading the suicide letter, if you will, to the fans? And when I look at the pictures of where the bench is and there's a tree there, I swear it reminds me of where all the fans were gathered and she was reading that suicide letter.
On that bench?
Yeah. Yeah,
well,
right beside the tree, and that's it. Maybe it's not, but I know it was supposed to be in front of the house,
right?
And so I always see that, and I'm like, ooh, that's a little bit heavy as far as if you get into any side of how strange the events were surrounding the death,
right?
So Mr. Dave would lynch me though if that was one of my rules. I have this funny thing, Ross. It's the top 10 things that Dave Scott told me not to say because he's heard my show before. So he's like, all right, look, we can't talk about certain conspiracies. We can't talk about. So I get I go right on the edge of it. But but I appreciate you talking a little bit about the bench. I don't think it would have normally been my first question, but I will tell you what will be the first question though is. On some of the extensive places that you've went, because you have really, like I said, bucket list for me is some of the places you've investigated. One of those that really sticks out to me is the St. Louis University deal with going into the Exorcist room that was, based on, or they based the Exorcist off of, where they did the exorcism on the little boy.
Right.
How heavy of a situation was that? I mean, does that still stick with you, or is there anything you remember from that case?
Oh, yeah. That's actually one of my most popular cases that I do talk about. I talk about that one on my lecture tour. I talk about that one on a lot of the shows that I get invited to. It was a very intense situation. And it's actually kind of a longer story, and I don't know if we have time for this.
Right.
But as we had talked about earlier in your show, I lecture at colleges and universities. And so when I get invited to one of these colleges, I'll do my hour lecture. And then afterwards, I'll take the students on a ghost hunt on their campus. Well, we're talking probably, this was probably maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, when I was invited to St. Louis University to do my lecture and ghost hunt. Now, what was interesting about this is I didn't put two and two together when I was invited to the campus. So I was kind of, interested what their paranormal history is. And all of a sudden, they tell me this is where the Exorcist case took place. And it was like, oh my God, that's right. And so they took me to the building that is right next to the church that was involved in the exorcism. And at the time, the church had owned this building. Now they have long sold it to the campus. So we had access to this building. Now, the story is that the boy had actually stayed, and they had given him the name Robbie to protect his identity. And they said, Robbie had slept on the fourth floor during this time. And so they take me into the building, we go through the different floors, and we finally get to the fourth floor. And I was surprised because the fourth floor was completely abandoned and run down, graffiti everywhere, holes in the walls. And it was such a huge space up there. I'm thinking, gosh, why don't they utilize this space, for something? And they proceeded to tell me that they've had so many problems on the fourth floor that they completely abandoned it. And when they say problems, they're kind of referring to or hinting around to, paranormal problems.
Right.
So we go around through all the different rooms, and they tell me that, the nuns used to live up here, and you can see all these little rooms that the nuns would have lived in. They also used to teach Sunday school up there, and you can see the little classrooms with the chalkboards still on the walls and the little desks. And so, yeah, it was definitely a really cool abandoned space to check out. So we start to continue to walk around, explore all the rooms up there, and I'm ahead of the group, so I'm the first one to walk into this room. And right when I walked into the room, I heard this crunch underneath my feet. And I looked down and I realized I had stepped on a dead bird. Oh. Now, for me, that's not unusual. When you've been in a lot of abandoned places, you run into dead animals every so often. So I really didn't think much of it. I just kind of kicked it over to the side so no one else would step on it. But then when I shine my light through the rest of the room, I realized that this room was just filled with dozens and dozens of dead birds.
Oh.
And this is the first time I experienced this, and I had already gone through most of the fourth floor. We were coming to the end here, so I was kind of like, okay, this is kind of odd. Well, as I'm standing in this room, I turn around and I realize that all the students are still standing in the doorway. They hadn't come into the room. And so I kind of turned around and they said, oh, this is the room that the boy had stayed in. All right. Creep factor's gone up a little bit.
Oh, my God.
Now, the story is, and there's various different stories, to actually what happened in this case. But the story is that he was actually brought to the campus. He had stayed in this building on the fourth floor for a short period of time. And during this time, they're performing multiple exorcisms on the boy. Because they believe that they could not perform a full exorcism on the boy in the church because this could possibly kill him. So then they moved him to the hospital where they completed the exorcism. So I'm realizing I'm standing in this room filled with all these dead birds, and an exorcism had been performed in this room.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I've been in some of the deepest, darkest places you can imagine, and I'm hardly ever fazed by this, but I'm a little creeped out being in this room. So we decide, to continue on with the investigation. And during my investigation, I give the students some of the basic equipment that they can use. And we're in this room for less than 5 minutes when all of a sudden, all the equipment goes off at the exact same time. We're talking the temperature started to drop rapidly. And I can feel it getting colder and colder, almost to the point where I'm about to see my breath anytime soon. The EMF detector is going off like crazy, and we can't figure out what's causing the EMF reading. And, you know, the compass is spinning around and around and around and around, and it will not stop.
Oh, my God.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, I'm exactly what you guys just said. I'm just like, oh, my God, this is really happening.
Yeah.
So, you know, I got to document this. I got to prove that we are really experiencing this phenomena. So I switched my camera over to video, and I started filming an infrared video, the equipment going off, you know, the students, you know, trying to document this the best that I can to prove that this is happening. And after a while, it starts to slow down a little bit. So I realized, okay, before it completely stops, I want to try for some EVPs. So I started asking questions into the air, and I happened to ask the question, can you tell me whose room this is? Now there's about 12 seconds of silence, and then all of a sudden I start to hear crying to the left of me. And I turn and I realize that a couple of the female students have started to cry because they're so terrified being in this room. So, you know, they're uncomfortable. I'm a little uncomfortable because I don't have my normal ghost hunting team with me. This is just a bunch of college students following me around.
Right.
So for me, it's always about safety. So I don't know what we're up against here. So I decided, you know what, you guys, let's go ahead and wrap it up and we'll move to another location. So we finally, you know, finished up the investigation. And I was hoping later that night I'd be able to go back and continue my own investigation there. But I didn't get a chance. We couldn't get the security guard to let us in, or we couldn't find the security guard to let us in. So we just wrapped it up for the night. Now, when I finally got done with my lecture tour and I got home and started reviewing all of my evidence that I collected at all these different campuses, I got to that video. And I got to the part in the video where it asked, can you tell me whose room this is? Now, right after I asked that, and I'll edit this because I don't want to offend anybody, but it basically says, F you, it's mine. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. So years go by, and I'm finally invited back to St. Louis University. And I'm really excited to go back. And we got, you know, new people in charge. And come to find out that ever since we had done that initial investigation, they had remodeled the fourth floor. They had added some offices up there, a huge meeting room. And I was going, oh, man, you know, I wish I could remember where that room was because I at least like to go back to that spot. And so, you know, before I actually head to the campus, I was in contact with them and trying to get, you know, track down where that spot was because we all wanted to go back there. Well, come to find out, when they remodeled the fourth floor, they completely locked off the space and left that room alone.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
They knew.
Yeah. So the only way to get to that room is you have to take this old wooden staircase to the fourth floor. Then you go down a hallway into that room. So that's the only way you can get into that space. Now, throughout the years, security has used that room or used to use that room to store bikes. But then they kept having problems that when they'd come back to collect their bike, the handlebars would be bent around, their chain would be ripped off the bike. And so they had to stop completely using that room. So from that point on, the room has just basically been locked away and no one's been able to have access to it. Right. So I got to come back. We now know where the room is. So we got access to be able to check it out for this event. So now I was granted the opportunity to do my own little investigation. And I went up there, did my own little thing. And we had some pretty interesting things happen. But the most interesting thing is I actually left a recorder in the room overnight. And I picked it up the next morning. And to my surprise, again, when I got home and started reviewing all my evidence from all these campuses, I got to that recording. And in this recording, you can actually hear what sounds like somebody walking up there, doors opening and closing. Now, again, the only way to get access to that space is you have to go up this staircase.
Right.
And you can hear us, you can hear us, after I turned on the recorder, you can hear us leave. And then you can hear me coming back the next morning to pick it up. Right. So you hear me leaving and coming back up that staircase. So I know that no one had access to that space when we were hearing all these things in the recordings. But the most interesting thing is you'll actually hear what sounds like a train coming into the depot. And as that sound of that train is happening, you'll hear what sounds like a female screaming and pounding on a door, screaming, "Let me out. Let me out."
Oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah. I submitted this stuff to them. They couldn't figure out any idea as to what that was. There's no train in the area. Yeah.
Wow, man. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's, just that's another place, though, that would be energy of, being placed in there. I've got a question after the break. We're probably about 45 seconds away from our first hard break here, but after the break, I've got a question about the students. And
yeah, it's a good creepy way to go into the first commercial.
Yeah, there you go, right? But yeah, no, that's just something about the question will be more about having somebody that's not a seasoned investigator with you, if that's not good for, actually getting some evidence sometimes. But that's the hook there for you guys.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get back here in just a few minutes. So stick around and we will talk some more to Mr. Ross Allison.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey Spaced Out Radio fans, it's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from dance to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at Kajan's. AGHOST.com.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Saturday. We're joined once again by our guest, Ross Allison, and I believe you had a question for him, John?
Oh, I did, Stacy. I like your properness. Well, yes, Stacy. The question that I had, actually, to piggyback off something that you were talking about with the Exorcist case there, you were talking about how you had sometimes, the students go with you, or most of the times when you do a lecture on a college campus. And sometimes, obviously the girls, they started crying, and that's a normal reaction for that kind of activity. I'd probably start crying too in that room. But have you noticed that I don't want to really call it fear, but lacking a better word for it, that the fear factor increases your chances of having that, that really incredible interaction, or charges the air, so to speak? More so than your seasoned investigator?
Well, I think in some situations, and it's not necessarily just fear, skepticism. I've had situations where sometimes, somebody who is a hardcore skeptic doesn't want to believe, and they'll actually have an experiences as well.
Oh, wow.
So you're dealing with a situation where, as I've always said, like attracts like. So if you're going in, with fear or with anger, sometimes you'll actually attract those type of energies as well. So I've always said, if you're afraid of, being around something that could be negative, then don't go in with a negative, state of mind.
Right.
Because in most cases you could trigger that negativity. So, and that's one of the things that I think that has protected me throughout my career is the fact that, I don't go in provoking spirits. I feel that what has protected me from things following me home is I just go in respectfully. And so I think that in most cases, as they always say, you attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So,
yeah, unfortunately, that's a hard lesson some people have to learn, the hard way. We always try to tell people that, it's better to be respectful, that you will actually end up eventually with more positive evidence.
Yeah.
If you're not in there provoking and yelling and,
absolutely
trying to make them upset.
And that's
because
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, because, we all honestly don't know what we're dealing with. A lot of people have their own theories and ideas of what could be out there. And I know a lot of people are led by religion. But the fact of the matter is we don't have all the answers. Right. And so why would you want to go into a place and I hate to say it, but piss something off and not be able to deal or handle the consequences?
Right. And we also try to tell people that they need to be in the right frame of mind. Like you said, positive, good attitude, not a lot of problems, mentally prepared.
I think Stacy always likens it to an acid trip, actually, when we're training people. I'm just going to out you right now. She's always like, I've never done it myself, but if I were to do LSD, I would want to be in a really good place and feel safe going in and be in a good frame of mind. And she goes, that's basically a paranormal investigation for me. If I go in and I've just had a fight with someone, then that's probably what I'm going to get. So very much right on the same cusp as what you're saying.
Right, exactly.
But, and that's another reason that I told Ross again before the show that I've had him in my little... Well, it doesn't sound right. I've had him in my little black book. Well, to tell you, man, you got a really good profile picture. But no, I've had him in my book of people I wanted to interview for quite a long time. And one of the things that actually did that was I was listening to you on a show one night, and you were talking about, being open and honest, being some of the most important parts, of who you are. And the longevity that you've been able to enjoy and some of the success and everything. And honestly, it's right down the same thing. And that's why Stacy and I, we don't actually have a team per se, because we got away from the team atmosphere just to go embed ourselves with other teams and teach and things like that. But just to keep that honesty, So one of the things I really, really dig. But with all those props, I'm going to have to pull you right back into a scary story. Obviously, you've had the Seattle tours. You've really wrote the Spooked in Seattle, and which I think I've read every single place now. Crammed those in, and on the Seattle Underground, which you do list as like the number one. I'm guessing those are in order for the top haunted spaces in Seattle.
Yes.
It's always been intriguing to me. I'm a big fan of like old Sherlock novels and stuff. So when I see things like opium dens, it piques my interest. But is the activity in the underground? Can you kind of describe that? I mean, it's such an intriguing story as to how that even came to be, and I always love the fact that it's sort of that forgotten, or was the sort of that forgotten area, but. What kind of activity do you get in the Seattle Underground?
Well, just to kind of go back up a little bit here too, and the reason why I list the Underground as probably my top haunted location is because I've had more opportunities to investigate it. Right. I get asked quite a bit, what do I feel is the most haunted place, that I've ever investigated. And I've been all over the world. I've been, like I said, some of the deepest, darkest places you can imagine, some of the most, haunted locations that have been published out there, that have been featured on television shows. And a lot of times, I even got to walk through the Amityville house. Nothing.
Wow.
you know. And people tend to forget, you know, it's all about being at the right place in the right time. And a lot of these groups will get excited to investigate some of these most haunted places, and they're kind of bummed because they don't have an experience. Well, that doesn't mean it's not haunted. It's just, you know, we're just not always at the right place at the right time.
Right.
But getting back to the underground is here, I've had more of those opportunities because it is right in my backyard. You know, if I want to investigate the underground, I have multiple opportunities to go in and investigate the underground. So when it comes to the activity, there's so many stories I can tell you. But one of my first encounters, I'd have to say, is we had investigated a section of the underground that's owned by the Seattle Underground company, Bill Spiedel's company, and I used to be a tour guide there. So I had the opportunity to get in there and do, you know, multiple investigations. And one night we were doing an investigation, and we're in the old vault area. And this is where an old bank vault used to be. And, of course, we're doing our EVP session. And one of the most common questions we tend to ask is, of course, what is your name? Right. You're hoping, you know, you can identify who's haunting these locations. And we had asked that question, and we clearly get a Class A EVP where it says Edward. So, you know, that was kind of cool. You know, we all agreed this is definitely what's being said. And we had sat on that information for quite some time. Well, throughout the years, other groups have had the opportunity to investigate the underground as well. And another group had gone in and investigated the vault area and asked that same question. And to their surprise, they got the response, Eddie. So here we have two separate investigation teams going and investigate a location. We had not communicated with what our experiences have been or even shared our EVPs. And yet one group walks in and gets the response, Edward, and another group walks in and gets the response, Eddie.
Right.
So when you have things like that happen, all it does is build the credibility in what we do as paranormal investigators. And that's where I think we lack in the paranormal society, is we are not willing to share. There's too many egos involved and too much hoarding involved because they think they're holding on to the gold of, you know, ghost hunting evidence.
Absolutely.
And we really do need to share that information, because that is a prime example of how it helps both teams build the credibility when we both walk away with a very similar EVP.
Yeah.
Now, I'll get back into the underground itself. I know you had asked, you know, the history of the underground. Now, the history of the underground actually dates back to 1800s when we suffered the Great Seattle Fire, June 6th, 1889. And this actually wiped out 33 blocks of old Seattle. You know, we're talking, you know, the wooden structures of Seattle back in the day.
Wow.
And so when they rebuilt their city, one of the things that they had to take care of was the drainage problems. That was a huge problem for the city of Seattle, because they were built at sea level and a lot closer to the water. So some of the problems they had were, you know, sometimes extremely high tides would come in every so often, flood the streets, and plumbing was another big problem. They literally had strict rules that you weren't allowed to flush your crapper at high tide, because if you did, your crapper would explode. We're talking like, you know, geysers of sewage and salt water shooting out of these things.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was a big problem. I know. And a lot of people did, believe me. The problem was so bad that they said that you could actually smell Seattle 2 miles away.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Not very Seattle-like.
No.
No. So when they had this opportunity now to rebuild the city, they decided to raise their streets. Now, unfortunately, this was going to be a big problem and take a lot of time. And the business owners didn't want to wait what they estimated could be, you know, easily, you know, 8 to 10 years.
Right.
You know, that's how long they estimated that it would take for them to rebuild the city on their original plan. Mm-hmm. So the business owners went ahead and said, you know what, we're not going to wait that long. We're just going to go ahead and start rebuilding. So the next day after the fire, they begin to rebuild. Mm-hmm. And so since the buildings are going up, the city officials are like, well, fine. I guess what we'll do is we'll just raise the streets around these buildings. So they built walls around each and every block, and then they filled in the in between those walls all that dirt. And so this basically raised the streets to the point where now you could easily have from, from 10 feet down to just to get to the sidewalk, from the street to the sidewalk.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're looking at 8 to 10 feet just to get down to the sidewalk.
Good
and
Lord.
To fix this problem, they actually installed ladders at all four corners. So you basically have to go up a ladder, cross the street, and go down another ladder.
Not inconvenient at all.
Yeah, that's the way it was for a good, 20 years to finish the regrading of the city. So when they finally put in the sidewalks, what this does is this now creates the famous Seattle Underground.
Right.
Because basically what the Seattle Underground is, people think, oh, it's, cities underneath the city. No, it's the original first floor underneath the sidewalks. So you'd actually, when you take the underground tours, you would actually be able to walk around where the original sidewalks used to be.
Right.
So that is the underground, the story of the underground. Now, of course, back in the early 1900s, we had a plague scare. And so what they decided to do was shut off all these underground sections. And so this is what left the underground abandoned since the early 1900s. And in most cases, businesses would use the underground for, extra storage because it is an extended basement, really, for all these businesses. And so you have this section that goes underneath the sidewalks where they would actually use it for storage. A lot of businesses used them as a dump heap. They just throw all their trash down there. And that's the way it was for, up until the 70s when the first underground tour opened up and Bill Spidell started taking people into these underground sections and telling the Seattle history.
Wow. That's crazy.
So during that time, you had, prostitution happening in those undergrounds, speakeasies, opium dens. So while these places, these sections of the underground were being abandoned, that's when you had all the seedier things happening in the underground.
Right. And you said that since that's kind of in your backyard, you investigate there quite a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious, do you find that since you go there a lot of the time, is it easier for you to get evidence there than other locations? Because I know we've talked to other people, and I know for us, especially when we go to a particular location a lot, it seems like it's easier, like maybe the spirits get to know you a little bit.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And like I said in the beginning, it's all about being at the right place at the right time. We can't make ghosts, perform on command. If we did, then we would have the answers right now as to what's going on. But it's one of those things is if you have access to a haunted location on multiple times, get in there and investigate. But that's also another problem we have in the paranormal field is a lot of these groups get excited and will investigate one place and never return.
Right.
A lot of times you have to return multiple times before you'll collect some sort of evidence that there could be something going on.
Yes, absolutely.
So a lot of these groups get bored, they want to move on to the next exciting adventure and they forget about some of these places that very well could be very haunted. They just didn't experience anything the first time around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know John and I, where we just do it by ourselves now, but when we were on a team, there's a lot of times we noticed that, everybody would get so excited to go to maybe a big location somewhere that you've waited so long and you had to book your date and get in there and the expectation was so high that there's no way it could have lived up to it.
Right. But media does that too, as well. They, a lot of these places will build up a lot of these stories. And then, of course, it can be a letdown when you go in and investigate some of these places. Because you think that every time you go in, disembodied voice is going to tell you to get the hell out.
Right. Yeah, no, well, I mean, I call those places paper booze. And, it's a whole nother story, another rabbit hole. But it's my whole thing on that's always been, I wonder what these places are going to be 10 years down the road with 365 days of people pouring energy into them.
Oh yeah. Oh, I hear you.
I mean, have you noticed with the underground itself, where you have been there so much that it take on a different, a different vibe from tours or anything like that? Does it ever surprise you?
Has it ever surprised me? No, I don't think the underground gets enough attention, to be honest. Regardless of, yes, there's tours going through there, but the tours going through there have been mostly about its history. They really don't talk about the ghosts or the hauntings. And I think what changes the energy in a lot of cases is when you're giving them the attention. Right. So if you're going in there and you're ignoring them, then you're probably not going to have the experience. But when you go in there giving them the attention, like, oh, wow, there is somebody here talking to me. There is somebody that wants to acknowledge me. Hey, I might, take the initiative and let them know I'm here.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of that. But then there's also a lot of times when it's just residual energy, when it's all about being at the right place at the right time. And then you walk in when something, residual goes through its normal routine. So that can explain a lot of times, a lot of situations as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's just the whole story to it is just so interesting. And with the speakeasies and as you said, like the prostitution and stuff, have any of those, have you had anything more than residual for any of that, like as far as evidence goes, or have you ever captured, something along the lines of hearing the noise or the glasses clanking or the bottles clanking or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. In fact, one of my other great stories that I tell all the time on my tours is I was doing an investigation for a local news crew. And this was about easily 8 years ago by now. And I was doing an investigation for a local news crew. It was running around Halloween time, so they wanted to follow us around as we investigated all these different sections of the underground. And it was getting late, we're getting ready to wrap up for the night. And the guy with the news crew says, hey, Ross, do you mind if we do this quick 10-minute interview with you before we wrap up for the night? And of course, I'm like, yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. Now, I should point out that we're wrapping up around 4 o'clock in the morning. And now they want to do this interview with me. Well, what was supposed to be just a quick 10-minute interview ended up being over 45 minutes long. Now, the reason why it ran so long is because they kept having to stop and start over and over and over again. So they kept asking me the same question again and again and again. And I'm getting a little annoyed. I'm tired. I want to go home, go to bed. But I'm also like, are they not happy with my answers? Do they want me to make up stuff? What the hell's going on here?
Right.
So I finally asked them, I said, hey guys, what can we do to kind of get this through this a little quicker? And the guy with the audio equipment, he pulls off his headphones and he says, I'm so sorry, Ross. He's like, every time you start to talk, we keep getting all these interruptions. We're not sure what's causing all that. And I got to thinking, I was like, holy cow, these guys are using professional audio equipment. Oh. Now, a lot of people are unaware of this, but that audio equipment actually has a 3-second delay. So the guy with the headphones can actually hear what's being recorded so that he can make sure that they get the best audio before they go back to the studio for editing. So he's hearing what's being recorded during my interview. And I realize what he's hearing during my interview are EVPs as they happen.
Yes.
So the next day, he sends me a bunch of clips of all the stuff he was hearing during my interview. And in one of these clips, you can clearly hear what sounds like children talking, giggling, and then they start to sing.
Oh, man, that's never creepy, right?
No.
It's so interesting what you're saying, just because one of the documentaries we did years ago was, we were using the pro equipment and all that good stuff, and it's we're using the high gain boom mic. And I noticed while using it, I was like, hold on a second, because there was one little experiment I was doing where a guy had been pushed down an elevator shaft. And I was standing there and I heard, John. And I was like, oh, okay, hold on a second. And I told everybody, I said, anybody else hear that? Disembodied, nobody heard it. So I thought, okay, wait a second. And I ended up using that. Long story short, the boom mic has become part of my normal routine with an actual pro cam, just to use that boom mic because it had such just turning the gain up.
Right.
A lot of good luck with that. You're the first other person I've ever heard actually talk about capturing the voices with that in real time.
Oh yeah. No, it's been amazing, the things that we can capture today. But one of the things that I find that we're kind of failing as well is we're not going back to our roots. We've moved to this digital era where I guess, it's nice to have memory cards and see the, instant results, with your digital cameras and not having to spend money to buy cassettes all the time. But you got to understand, I come from the old school times. Right. That was what we were doing back in the day was, we had cassette tapes, we had film. And I really feel that, we might be missing out on some more evidence because we are not utilizing those devices anymore. Everything is, zeros and ones.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, again, I really feel that my old recorders captured a richer, it might have been mono and tape and all that. I feel you. It just feels like a richer quality and some of the better EVPs. I don't know. I remember the first time I ever used a Zoom and, it was like 360 and all that. And I was like, this is just too much. It's not, it was almost overwhelming that I could hear the bird, 3 blocks away. And,
right.
If they want to communicate, I think they're going to find a way to communicate. And you don't necessarily have to have the most sensitive piece of equipment. And
Right.
I'll be interested, coming back off this break right now, ask you about film versus digital, because that's something I haven't really messed with as much. But
yes. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. You guys stick around, and we'll have more with Ross Allison.
Hey, space travelers. This is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you'd know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio Saturday. We are your guides, John and Stacey Edwards.
We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. On the digital side, we're on Revolution Radio. And don't forget, you can check out our archives at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Do me a favor and smash that subscribe button.
The website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a ton of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shop at the Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the SOR Newswire, and so much more.
And we're now joined once again with Mr. Ross Allison, and we were talking before the break about, really going back to our roots and putting a little bit more thought into the investigation, not having to use every bell and every whistle. And it got me thinking, with the film, because I've always been very much an audio guy. I came into it that way just because I'm audio heavy. I was in a band when I first started doing this, and it was just easy for me to get audio equipment and not easy for me to buy a camera. So I was I never had a good camera and all that stuff. But just speaking on that, your differences in using film and versus a digital camera. I mean, have you noticed anything as far as the stuff you do capture?
Oh yeah, no, there has been a big difference. You got to understand that the processing, compared to digital, it's a chemical processing. In fact, there was a phenomena known as psychography, where a person could actually hold unexposed film in their hand, and they claimed that they could actually produce images on the film. Mm-hmm. Well, who's to say spirits couldn't do the same thing?
Right.
So, some of the best apparitions that have ever been captured have been on film back in the day. Mm-hmm. Now it's I hate to say it, but it's kind of scary, but it's so easy to manipulate pictures nowadays. A child could do it, with their phone. There's apps that allow you to throw ghosts in your pictures, and people will post those photos on the internet and say, hey, here's a ghost that I captured. That's the big problem we have nowadays, is it's so easy to manipulate the evidence. So, back then it was a lot harder. You had negatives that had to back up your findings. Right. You don't have negatives when you have a digital picture. Mm-hmm. So, film, I think, was a big source in helping to build the credibility, because I think we're losing that so quickly nowadays, because everybody wants their, 15 minutes of fame, by producing false photos and, false evidence.
Yeah.
So film, I do feel, is a very important tool that unfortunately we are losing, because, no one's producing. It's harder to get it processed nowadays. It's harder to find film nowadays. Mm-hmm. And no one's really educated in film anymore. Yeah. So I should point this out. There was a very famous case out there back in the late 80s, known as the Ghostwriter case. It was in California, where two gentlemen had lived in a house, and they started to experience, phenomena. And to document their encounters, they pulled out a Polaroid camera. And as they were taking pictures, one of the guys happened to ask a question. And right when he took the picture, to their surprise, the answer appeared in the Polaroid picture.
Oh, wow.
And so all they had to do was ask a question into the air and then take a picture with the camera, and the answer would appear in that film. So there was definitely something happening there. Yeah. And I think we lost touch with that. So I think that's something that I'd like to see come back to the field.
Yeah, absolutely. We were always very into the skull experiment, and we actually organized to start our own in the same place, every week, same time. And when we moved out of the area, they continued that to this very day. I think they've been going 5 years or something with a similar experiment, just having the same people trying to contact, because it made me think about when you were talking about the film having the imprints. That's always been so intriguing to me with unopened rolls of film, somehow the spirits being able to manipulate that. But possibly, spirits from, yesteryear, if you will, would be more familiar with film than anything digital, you would think.
Right. But again, it's also understanding, which we don't, the energy around us. How do spirits manipulate the devices that we use? How do they, manipulate film? It's a lot of that stuff that we're still struggling to find answers for. And I know there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I've got the answers," but no, you don't. I'm sorry.
I like the fact you say that. Especially with someone. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Ross has investigated well over 500 cases. I mean, just and not just stuff down the street. I mean, he's actually went out there, boots on the ground, and so it's nice to talk to someone who actually has that, that kind of experience. And every time you do, though, you hear a lot of these same things. A lot of the let's take our time on this. An investigation is more than one night. Get back to a notebook and pen, and
right.
Real investigation stuff instead of going back to where you're always considered pseudoscience. So,
well, the other thing that I hate to bring this up, and I know this kind of pisses off a lot of people too when I start to talk about this, but the biggest problem we have with ghost hunting today is what we call lazy ghost hunters. People don't want to do the real work and research when it comes to true paranormal research. They don't want to record for 3 hours and then have to go back and listen for 3 hours plus. They don't want to watch, record videos and then have to go back and watch those videos.
Right.
Now we're getting to a point where people want that instant gratification when they go on an investigation. And unfortunately, there's a lot of devices out there that they're now focused on that are too suggestive, that now make it easy for people to ghost hunt. And people to put too much trust in these devices. And that's become a big problem in the field as well.
Well, I can tell you right off, it's not a new feature, but something I've always hated is voice activation. Where people sit the thing down, have it on voice activation for an EVP, or they have it on motion for, going through the video. Because I've actually captured things that pretty confident would not have been captured with motion capture.
Right. No, I hear you. And again, it's all about the lazy ghost hunting now. It's they don't want to they want to cut down, squeeze it down to a shorter period of time. So if you're going to use voice recognition, sorry, now I got it.
Yeah, that's my fault.
No, it's fine. So if you're going to go for, motion activated, cameras and sound activated audio, then all you're doing is you're possibly missing out on something that, again, you're trusting the software behind the devices to pick up what has already been programmed to pick up the living. They're not looking to try and find the dead.
Yeah, great point.
So,
great point. Well, speaking of old school and things that are old school, another one of our, I guess you could say, theories, if you will. Not really a theory, but just a something we've noticed over the years.
Observation.
We have a lot of friends in local theater. And so that afforded us the opportunity. You know how it is when you know someone, right? You get to maybe investigate their building. So it's been over a decade ago. Actually a lot longer than that. I investigated the State Theater of Virginia, Barter Theater. And not a lot of people got to go in there, and had some great evidence. So that turned into another theater and another theater. And our friends then in local theater, community theater, we investigated their building, and that led to more and more. Well, this has went on throughout time. And what we found, I was noticing, actually in your top 10, again, going back to Seattle and Spooked in Seattle, that you had the Moore Theater and the Harvard Exit Theater both landed in your top 10. And, with the theater experience, my questions kind of got more than one part to it. But, number one, what's some of the stories of these theaters, and why do you think, in your opinion, that theaters are so active, just, in among themselves?
Well, I'll take the second one first, and then we'll go back to why theaters are haunted. And then this goes to the fact that you have to understand that theaters are a place of creativity, all right? A lot of passion goes into a lot of performers. You know, people had dreams to become the next big, star. And so you put a lot of that energy into your being, into this production. And especially when it comes to dreams, when you have these big dreams and you hold on to that. And I think in some cases when somebody passes away and the theater was their life, they choose to hold on to that, They hold on to that dream and don't know how to let go.
Right.
And so I think that is one of the main reasons why a lot of theaters can be haunted, is because so many people had dreams to be, the big star. So I think for me, that's one reason why. And then a lot of it could easily be residual as well. You have a lot of situations where you're doing the same thing over and over again on this stage to produce this story that you're trying to tell. And so sometimes, especially with these people that are Methodist actors, where they truly become that character, and sometimes it's hard for them to break free of that character. So and so that could easily be another reason why a place could be haunted, is because they left that emotional character behind that they were playing.
Right.
But also when you go back to the residual part, is again, you're repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And when you have an emotional character that you're trying to portray on the stage, we do find that emotions produce a lot of energy. And somehow that energy is recorded into the environment. It doesn't even have to be a theater, You could be at home pacing up and down your hallway, contemplating what's going to happen next in your life because something tragic happened, and you're so emotionally distraught, you don't know what you're going to do next. So you're just pacing up and down the hallway, trying to figure out what you're going to do next in your life. And somehow that emotion can be recorded into your environment. So when somebody moves into the place after you've moved on, and somebody else moves into the place, and they'll be awoken in the middle of the night by hearing somebody walking up and down the hall.
Right.
And they immediately think, oh, it's a ghost. It's haunted. No, it's just that residual energy that you yourself have left behind. And you could still be alive somewhere else, So theaters are like that as well, when you're playing a very emotional character, an emotional part, and you have to go through these, staging steps. You have to do this to get to this point on the stage. Somehow that emotion can be recorded as well. And so you have that residual haunting that happens.
Wow, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to ask you, because John mentioned your top 10 most haunted in Seattle. That's in your book, the Spooked in Seattle book. And I love that book because I love the fact that there is a map in there with every single haunted location you talk about plotted out on a map so people can go see them. But I was curious because it's been a few years since, that book was published. Is that top 10 still accurate? Like, have you found anything else that you would add in there now?
God, it's been a while. You're right. That book's been out for a while, so I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's probably a few things that I would change. There's actually, even in the book now, that there's these places, some of these places aren't even around anymore. Right. Some places have been torn down, which is kind of heartbreaking. I've been wanting to do an updated version of the book. Right. But yeah, I found that a lot of places have been torn down, which is heartbreaking. Of course, some of the businesses have moved out of certain places. So is it the same? I'd probably have to say in most cases, probably yes. Seattle Underground will still be number one for me. Because again, I've had more experiences there. Yeah. I'm looking at the list right now. So Seattle is number one, Butterworth number two, Harvard Exit Theater number three, Arctic Club number four, the Amazon building, which used to be an old hospital. Now, see, Amazon had moved out of that building. But the old hospital's still there. So Yeah, I would still say that's number 5, but it's no longer the Amazon building. Let's see, Moore Theater number 6, Georgetown Castle number 7, 8, Fry Hotel, number 9, University Heights, and 10, Comet Lodge Cemetery. I'd probably move Comet Lodge Cemetery up a little further. But yeah, these are still a lot of very historic locations in the Seattle area, so the history is always going to be there.
Right. So did you have a spooky theater story from one of your theaters in your top 10?
Oh, my top 10, let me think. The Harvard Exit Theater, again, it's no longer a theater. That's another place that I just realized that it's no longer the Harvard Exit Theater. It used to be an independent movie theater. It's now offices, so I don't even know if it's even the same inside. They may have even gotten rid of the theaters part of it, the screens and everything. But that actually, and that's kind of heartbreaking too, because that is one of Seattle's most oldest ghost stories being told.
Wow.
Was from some of those stories date back to early late 1970s to early 80s. When those stories were being told. And you had a situation where this building has gone through a lot of changes. In fact, when it was originally built, it was built as a, what was it though? It was a women's club. I'm sorry. It's been a long time since I've told this story. But it was a women's club, a women's society club, and I forget the name of the club. They originally built it. And so when they built it, they also included apartments that actually were for women that had nowhere to go. They were in abusive relationships. So they let these women stay into these apartments until they got themselves on their feet again. Mm-hmm. And so when the Harvard Exit Theater had taken over this building, they actually left the apartments there, but they never used them. In fact, they were mostly used as storage. So there's this section of this building that was hardly ever visited, not something you'd go into every day when you go to work. You'd probably maybe go in that space maybe once every 6 months or maybe once a year. Right. That's how often people were going into these spaces. But they would hear all kinds of interesting noises in those old apartments. Almost like there was stories of a woman humming in there. You'd hear humming or singing. You'd hear things moving, doors opening and closing. So that was pretty interesting. But there was also in the women's restroom where one of the stalls would always be locked. And it's one of those things where you have to physically push the latch over to lock the door. Mm-hmm. And so, people would say that they would hear a woman in that stall. And of course, it would be a situation where you're waiting to get in the stall. No one would ever come out of that stall. But every time you go to it, it's locked. But then when you look under, there's nobody there. Mm-hmm. And that actually happened quite a few times where they couldn't figure out why or how this stall was being latched all the time. And one time, one of the staff members was closing up, doing the rounds, making sure there was nobody in the building, goes into the women's restroom, hears the door shut and latch. And so, she calls out and she says, I do have to tell you, we are closed now. I do have to ask you if you please hurry up. And so, she gave her a few minutes to do her business. And she stood, just outside the women's, restroom door waiting for her to step out.
Yeah.
Of course, no one's coming out, Right. And she goes back into the restroom, and she says, are you almost done? No response, So she's kind of confused. And so, she even knocks on the stall door, no answer. And she, checks it and it's locked. So she looks under, nobody there.
Ooh.
And this has happened so often that they literally have to unlock the door, they have to crawl under the stall to get up there and unlock it.
Mm.
Oh my goodness.
So strange.
Oh yeah.
Place you don't want to have phantom smells. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
No, that's just, stuff like that's just astounding because, you would think that's not residual. I mean, because it would take
when it's well, if it's interacting with the environment, then it's not residual.
Right. Yeah, just happening so much. And the physical activity, the physical manipulation with the lock, that's pretty intense. But no, I appreciate you answering a question on the theaters because, like I said, it's just something we've always noticed. And I do completely concur with, the thought of pouring out so much emotion, basically bleeding it into the wood or the structure and the bricks and the building itself. It's makes a lot of sense to me as well.
Yeah, and we also noticed that a lot of the community theaters that we would investigate, community theaters are just in other buildings. They don't start as theaters. So we've done some that used to be churches or some that used to be, homes or whatever. You get all kinds of things when you start doing those.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, I hear you.
Absolutely. The I know we got a couple of minutes before the break, but to go all the way from Seattle way across the pond and probably don't have time to really get into it, but my number one place ever to investigate on my bucket list I was talking about is Lepp Castle. And
oh yeah, been there.
Whenever I see that someone's actually investigated, Lepp Castle, it's so interesting to me. I know we're probably about 55 seconds away from the break, but just as a little tease there, anything you've got from your experience there, which, from reading it seems like it was a little bit more positive than what you would have, what a lot of the stories lead you to believe with the spirits there. But I'll be interested to speak with you on that and a couple of other your cases.
Yep. So we'll be back in just a few minutes with Ross Allison. So stick around.
We're keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website, and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spicing up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night, where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Saturday. Thank you for tuning in. We are joined by our guest, Ross Allison. And I believe that we were talking about Lep Castle. Is that correct, John?
You know, we were going to try. It's just on my, it's on my bucket list. And I've actually listed that bucket list in public, if you will, many times. So it's not one of these things I'm making up on the fly.
No, that's true.
Lep Castle's always been up there. So, what kind of experience did you have with it? What was the, being in such a wondrous place to start with, as far as people's opinion of paranormal seems to be, a lot better there than it is in the United States. But with just a rich history, what kind of experience did you have with Lep?
Well, Lep was a great place to investigate. Again, it's off the beaten path, so it's not a situation where you have a lot of tourism going to check out this place. You literally have to rent a car and visit this place because it is a private home. Elderly gentleman actually lives there. But here's my thing when it comes to a lot of these places. Especially when they're listed as the most haunted. Lep Castle has been featured as, one of the most haunted places that you could imagine. And And I found that a lot of times when it comes to their stories, the stories come from the fact that, hundreds of people, well, maybe not in this situations, but hundreds, but maybe, a good, 50 people have come out and investigated, this castle.
Right.
And so what happens is you get a lot of people basically telling you that, so-and-so says that, there's a child buried under the ground here. I had a psychic come in and tell me this, and this is just like another prime example I use is the Ancient Ram's Inn. Mm-hmm. Investigated that place too. And again, it's another place, run by an elderly man. I believe he just passed away maybe about 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
But again, it's a situation where it's been documented as one of the most haunted places, but their stories that they tell you are stories that have been passed on to them from who they claim to be psychic, or another ghost hunting team has come in and claimed that this is what's going on. And so you have a lot of misinformation.
Right.
And this is one of the reasons why I write books, right? Why I write the stories, because I really try to find the root to the phenomena and focus on the phenomena itself, and not what, so-and-so the psychic says, or, this paranormal group comes in and said this, because you really don't know these people's credibility. Mm-hmm. But the situation you have with a lot of these, famed haunted places is the stories, get passed down from, one person to another, and they continue to roll, become the small ball and continue to roll down the hill. And it's this huge thing by the time it reaches the bottom of the hill.
Right.
And so, Lev Castle was an amazing historic place. It really was. And to be able to walk around through the place, do your own little mini investigation. Again, I didn't have an experience to say, yes, this place is one of the most haunted places I've ever experienced. I'm not saying that it's not haunted.
Right.
I just didn't have an experience there. And Chillingham Castle was the same thing. They claim that this is the most, gruesome castle. Hundreds and hundreds of people were tortured and murdered at this location. And, and you kind of have to wonder, well, what is really truth to a lot of this, and what is just, these fabricated stories that have just been passed down, and there's really not enough, history to prove it all.
Absolutely.
So, and again, Chillingham Castle, I did have an amazing experience there where a door started to open and then closed. And on command, I said, could you open up again for me? And sure enough, the door opened right after I said that.
Well, there you go. That's the best.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a nice experience. But, like I said, I've been to a lot of haunted places, some of the most documented haunted places, and you don't always have an experience. Mm-hmm. And that's just me being honest with you. I could tell you, oh my God, I was at Chillingham Castle and a headless ghost came right up to me. It's like, no. I wish, but no.
No, yeah, absolutely, man. It's and too many people do that. They go there, and one thing with what you're talking about that I have noticed is, you were talking earlier about someone going to any of these locations and they have this built up expectation or whatever, and sometimes I've seen people get angry that they're not getting any kind of activity, or it gets to be 3 a.m. or whatever, and they're ready to go home. They're like, well, there's nothing happening here, and it's just another pet peeve on a long list.
And for me, and I see that a lot too, and it's very unfortunate that people go in with that expectation that I'm going to have the most amazing experience because I've seen all the television shows, I've read all the books, I know what this place has to offer, and I'm going to experience that, and then they don't.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter for me, I don't go in with that thought. It's great that this place is haunted. That's going to be the first reason why I want to go there in the first place. But it's also amazing just to be in some of these most historic places.
Right.
To just stand, alone in this basement of this castle and just think about the history that has taken place in this location.
Oh,
you know, I may experience some of that history through a haunting, but in most cases I won't. But I'll still walk away with that excitement of knowing that I stood in a place where, you know, this happened, or, you know, this historical event took place. And for me, that makes it worth all the while as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to have a love for architecture and history, just the buildings and the beauty, just to do this.
And you really do. And that's a funny thing too, because as a kid, I hated history. I hated history in school. Oh my God. I
feel you.
History was like the worst thing for me in school. I wanted to know when are cars going to fly? You know, I got to see Back to the Future, you know, and I saw the DeLorean take off. I'm waiting for that, you know?
Right.
Who cares about what happened? I didn't know that history was going to be a big part of my life, you know? So for me, I regret that, you know, because now history is this huge part, and you have to have a love for that.
Oh yeah. You would imagine that you would be like the history guy. Just from what you do and what you've done throughout your life here. So that's really funny.
So I always tell people, if they want to get involved in this, definitely get involved in history classes. Learn your history, you know.
So Fort Kent in Maine, you know, Satan's Harvest. Now, John and I lived in Maine for a few years, and we drove from one end of that state to the other. We investigated everything from haunted roads with white ladies to islands and lighthouses and stuff, but we've never heard of that place. So what can you tell me about it?
Well, Satan's Harvest is another popular case that the Warrens were involved in. Now, I actually, back in the day, had the opportunity to work with Ed and Lorraine. So, you know, wow. That's, you know, it was a great experience to, you know, say, yeah, I've known these people. But Satan's Harvest is one of their cases that they did a long time ago, and I believe, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I believe the next installment for the Conjuring films may be that case.
Oh man!
In fact, cool. they kind of led up to it in there's a little bit of it in the Nun,
right?
When they did the Nun film,
yeah.
So Satan's Harvest. Now, Satan's Harvest. I have two different good stories to that, but I'll go into the actual location now. From research, they actually had a family farm in that area. Now, the story is that when I investigated it, I wasn't too familiar with the case itself. What happened was I was actually doing a lecture at a college in that area. And after we did our ghost hunt on the campus, a few of the students wanted to take me to this location. And they had told me that this is where the farm used to be, about the farmer who, you know, murdered his family and then, you know, burnt down the farm. Mm-hmm. And so that was the story I knew going into this place. And so we're, you know, me and, you know, a handful of college students, we're walking out into this wooded area where the farm was. And I do have to say that there was some pretty interesting things that did happen. Now, they do claim with the Warrens' story that he was possessed. And that's what drove him to do a lot of this stuff. And so when we were down there doing a little, you know, EVP session, we did pick up what sounded like a growling on the recorder.
Right.
And so that was probably the most intense experience. There's also, I have a video of an EVP that when I was filming that we captured of what sounds like a very negative energy there. And I only say it that way because I don't like to use the term demon. I know demon's like the big thing everybody wants to call demon. Right. But if you're really truly trying to be scientific with your research, you can't be biased.
Oh no.
And if you're, you know, saying demons, then obviously you're allowing religion to be the main focus of your investigation.
Absolutely.
And so I don't get me wrong, I do believe that there are negative energies out there. Just like I said, there's also negative people in the world as well. So,
right.
Who's to say that negative energy doesn't carry on when they pass on? So I don't like to use the term demon.
So do you think it's
but I
rare?
do to come across something negative?
Well, I mean, to come across something that you would feel okay labeling that way, to that level, because as you said, it's been popularized, I guess. Like a lot of people want to say, well, I think this was a demonic haunting.
Well, I would never call anything a demonic haunting.
Right.
Because again, you're dealing with a situation where we live in a world where there are multiple religious beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say one is right and the rest are all wrong?
Exactly.
We all have the ability to believe whatever we want to believe.
Right.
So and again, if you're going to truly be scientific with your research, you can't be biased in your research. And religion, whatever your religious beliefs are, can put you down that road because you want to go by your faith and what you've been taught and what you believe in your religion. You can't.
Right.
To truly be scientific in your research, you have to, as I've always stated, go with what you know and not with what you think you know. So I think what makes me a successful investigator is I strip down the phenomena to the root of the phenomena. What are we really experiencing here?
Right.
Can it be negative? Yes. There are situations where you will come across a negative entity. Something can try to physically harm you. Yes, that has happened. That's been documented through history. We have cases like that. Now, is it a demon? No, I would not say a demon, because you could bring in another religion and their beliefs and they'll say it's something else. They'll say that it's a jinn.
Right.
They'll say, there's all kinds of different labels that people will want to throw on something that they believe is negative.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So right there, you've already confused the situation. You're not you're being biased in your research.
No, I love that.
So, for me, I will not use the term demon. I will say, yes, there is something negative here. But again, as I go back to the simple fact is, there's a lot of very negative, bad people in the world. And who's to say that when they pass away, they won't carry that on as well and attack people, Who's to say that a rapist, when he dies, he's not going to continue to try raping women,
right?
In the afterlife. There's far too much of this phenomena that we don't understand, but it seems to make us feel better if we can label it. And I think that's where we make a mistake, is we're always trying to label it and find answer and have an answer to what it is, when we just have to be honest with ourselves and with everybody around us and say, we really don't know what this is.
And that's really the world today, unfortunately, is wanting to label everything and find a bucket for it. And, so I totally agree with it.
Well, and a lot of it comes from the fact is, the ghost hunting field is not what it was, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. The ghost hunting field is now, everybody's fighting for popularity. Everybody's fighting, to have their, television show.
Right.
A lot of people that have gotten into this field have gotten into it just to have a television show. When I got into this field, that wasn't even a glimmer in anybody's eye. We had no idea that would even be an option.
Right.
Your big thing was, if you were a ghost hunter, hey, you might appear on, sightings, or, or you might get a book,
Right.
Mm-hmm. That was the big deal back then. And now we're here, anybody can have a book, anybody can, now get themselves, on TV or, on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, it's a struggle. It really is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a struggle for the fact that there's a lot of good people that have been out there doing this a lot longer than I have. Speaking of like David Weatherly, who don't get the recognition that they deserve. Mm-hmm. Because, a lot of these, producers and networks are looking for the younger generation, and they don't ever, look to see if there's any credibility behind what they claim.
Yeah, and David being 28 now, he's kind of getting out of that range. So, brownie points.
That's right.
But and that's the thing is, I've always told people, if you are not sure of my history, you can look me up. I've got media that goes back to 2000.
Right.
The ghost hunting shows didn't start till 2004. I did a documentary in 2003 for the Learning Channel called America's Ghost Hunters. That was before all these, television shows started popping up left and right. So I can prove my history in this field, but a lot of these people can't. They say, "Oh yeah, I've been doing this for so and so." Well, it'd be nice if you could prove it. People that have had these television shows, you can't even find their history that they claim to have. And I don't want to get into that because
well, no,
that's a whole other show. But I'm just saying,
you're totally right.
We don't hold people accountable. That's the biggest problem. Anybody can come in here and say, I'm a ghost hunter and I've been doing this for 30 years, but yet, in all honesty, they probably only been doing it for 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Preaching to the choir. So, I won't say any names because I'm, try to be above that. But in 2007, there was a pretty well-known Hollywood horror actor that, wanted to go on an investigation and see what it was like. So I did the 101 with him the entire night. We were at Waverly Hills. And just sort of did the 101 of the investigation, wanted to experience something, all that good stuff. He actually did experience something pretty amazing with me. And about 2 years go by, and I'm turning on one of the shows, I'm air quoting, one of the shows of the paranormal variety. And he's on there with, saying, I've been investigating for 30 years. And and Stacy was standing beside me when that happened, and my jaw just hit the floor, man. I was like, I've got video, I've got audio where it's just like, hey, I'm here for your first ghost hunt, and what an honor it is to show you some of the ropes, So yeah, and I don't know why people want to, embellish that, but anybody who's been in the field will know that you've been in the field or not, Just crazy stuff.
I'm going to bring up another case, a prime example of this. And I won't say names either, but this can easily be researched. All right. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple out there that started their careers as hardcore skeptics. And they trashed the paranormal field for years and years. Now they go back before, a lot of this, started becoming more popular. Mm-hmm. And so what happened is all of a sudden they deleted their history and then 6 months later come back as paranormal experts. Right. And now have been appearing on all these television shows. And they may even have a show themselves. Mm-hmm. And I know for a fact that they're just going home, cashing their checks and laughing behind all of our backs.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it would almost be like, hypothetically, somebody might have worked for James Randi. I mean, not to mention any names or anything, but, there is a couple out there that we've noticed that they're just kind of popped up out of nowhere. And, we notice couples because we're a couple. Mm-hmm. And, it's just one of those things. It's like, well, this is weird. They sort of just came out of nowhere and have just a bunch of stuff, So yeah, I absolutely feel you. You just became my favorite person in the entire world. So that's funny. But yeah, that one's got me. And sometimes people even put out documentaries that I have to question. I can't even watch them because I already feel like they're so false in the nature of their story that how could I watch this documentary and think there's anything credible to it? So just again speaking hypothetically, but no, I mean it's a problem, and when it gets to that level, it hurts everybody who's ever cared about the field, because you want to be taken serious. You want people to understand that we're dealing with a real phenomena that we're trying to find the answers to. And, as you said, it's not fun. It takes days. It takes hours and hours and hours and hours. You investigate if you investigate 8 hours, it's going to take you 3-4 times that long to go through all the audio and the video.
Right.
So, absolutely agree with you, sir. Good stuff.
Well, like I said, I just hope that it gets serious again. It's just we got far too many people giving the wrong information out to the public and misleading the public on what true paranormal ghost hunting is like, and it's really nothing like what you see on TV.
Yeah. Well, even that. I mean, they record several nights, most of them to get an hour show. So,
not even that. Even that. I've been on a lot of the shows.
Yeah.
I know exactly what goes on.
Right.
I've been on shows where, I witnessed them investigate for about 4 hours and they were done.
Oh, that's so bad.
And they claim that they were there. A lot of this, you have to understand that, they may book the place for 2 or 3 days, but a lot of that is they're doing, B-roll, they're doing the interviews, they're doing all kinds of stuff before they actually do the actual investigation.
Right. Right. That's sad, man.
Right.
So, well, to end on that sour note for this. Sorry, I kind of fed into that, but
yeah, that's okay. That's all right. We'll be back after the break with, I'm sure, some more uplifting.
Well, I've got some big time scary questions. So
all right,
after the break,
so stick around.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best-rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I'm bringing you the Woo every Monday through Friday on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going all out to bring you the strangest, oddest stories and subjects I could find for your entertainment. Why? Because when we hit peak Woo, I know I've done my job. So come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, and together, my friends, we own the night.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
My hands can feel good. I'm free. I'm remembering who I am. My hands can feel good. I'm free. I'm remembering who I am. My hands can feel good. I'm free. I'm remembering who I am.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio Saturday. We are your guides, John and Stacey Edwards.
We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia, and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. On the digital side, we are on Revolution Radio, and don't forget, you can check out our archives at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Do me a favor and click that subscribe button.
The website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a ton of features for you, including rocking out to some Bumblefoot, shop at the Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the SOR Newswire, and so much more. We are joined for this final little 30-minute foray here. It went way too quick with
really
Mr. Ross Allison. And Russ, I was going to ask you, the cases you use for your lectures, obviously you're going to have some of your best stories in that and some of your best work to really use to teach or to let people know about the paranormal. Have you ever found that you end up building a connection to the people or even the places that you're speaking about in the lectures that you do, like with dreams or any kind of actual hauntings? I mean, when you think about it and work with it so much, have you built any connections with that?
Well, when it comes to the locations, some places like we had talked about in the very beginning of the show with the Exorcist case, obviously I had the opportunity to go back a few more times, but again, it's not a place that I've had access to multiple times. Mm-hmm. Some of these, pieces that I use to show evidence are places that I got to go once. A prime example is I play a video of my investigation at the catacombs in Rome. Wow. Now, unfortunately, I don't get to go to Rome all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's an interesting story too, is because, when I went to Rome, I was trying to get all these places set up that I'd be able to investigate. Now, again, this is where different cultural beliefs have a big play in a lot of this as well, because when you go to Rome, they're big believers in ghosts, So ghost hunting, when I did this, was not a big thing. Right. I think, Ghost Hunters had just aired on Sci-Fi Channel, so this was just the start of it all. And so, I go to the folks that are running the catacombs, and I told them, I said, I would love to have the opportunity to ghost hunt here. And they didn't understand the concept of ghost hunting.
Oh, wow.
It was just like, they were like, yeah, we got ghosts, what's the big deal? And it was like, and so I'm trying, to convince them on what I'm trying to do. And it took me a while to, because they just didn't get it. They didn't understand, what this whole thing of ghost hunting was. So I was able to convince them to lock me in a certain section of the underground so I could do, have some alone time. In these catacombs here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they had to lock me in this certain section because if you've ever been to the catacombs in Rome, they're massive. There are stories of people being lost down there for days.
Oh my God.
So, so they put me in this small section of the catacombs. So I was alone there. Now, I also have to express this point as well. I always find it odd when these ghost hunting shows go to other countries where English is not the main language, and yet they capture EVPs in English.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I always thought that was kind of odd,
Yeah,
So here I am. I'm in Italy. I don't speak Italian. So I'm trying to communicate the best that I can in another country, hoping something there will be able to communicate to me.
Mm-hmm.
And to my surprise, when I had asked the question, is there anybody here? I actually captured on the video an EVP C.
Oh.
Which is yes in Italian.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
So they understood you asking that, but answered in Italian. That's interesting.
Really strange.
Yeah.
When you say alone, you mean alone, just you?
Alone, just me.
Wow, man.
Like I said, they locked me in a certain section of the catacombs.
Oh my God. That's crazy. That's in a good way.
Right.
But Wow.
But that's one of the amazing adventures that you get to have when you pursue this field.
Right.
I could care less if I didn't get any evidence. Just to have that experience, standing alone in the catacombs, surrounded by all these, bodies, all that history there, that's amazing alone.
Oh, yeah.
And then yet I got evidence, so that made it even better.
Yeah. Well,
so go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can finish. I was going to go to something else, so you finish.
Well, I was just going back to his point that it's like, some of these places that I get to talk about, some of the most, interesting experience that I shared during my lectures have been situations where it's been a one-time opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
So, when you do have that experience and you do capture that EVP or that apparition, hopefully it makes that place even more special to you when you get to go back.
But I mean, there's not anyone else that I've ever talked to that has been in the Roman catacombs.
Yeah, that's not a very likely place.
Yeah, so that's I would probably talk about that one too, just because that's just so incredible. I know I've always wanted to go to Paris and do it there. But
that's honestly, another great one.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's just so it's cool. And when I say insane or crazy, the feeling you must have when you are locked inside, a place where all it is bones around you and just so much history. And that's insane. It was beautiful.
Yeah. So I know that you do the lecture series, and you tour around and do the lectures at the colleges, but I thought I read in your bio that you also teach a class based on one of the books that you've written. And I know you're obviously not doing that right this minute, considering our current situation, but when you did that, did you have good, was there a lot of interest in that? Is it a pretty full class, or, is that something that happens a lot?
Oh, yeah. No, I used to do it a lot. Back when my schedule was a little more flexible.
Right.
And the classes usually always sold out. Wow. But yeah, I used to offer classes at the UW and Tacoma Community College. And it's just been hard for me because usually when you commit to a class, and I'm not just one of those, you take my 3-hour course and now you're a certified ghost hunter. No,
right.
I'm sorry. My class was a full quarter. So you had about, 6 to 7 classes, and I didn't even certify you after that. I wouldn't do that.
Right.
Because again, I don't like to certify people and say, yes, I certify you as a ghost hunter, when a lot of this comes from experience, not just from taking a class.
Right.
You can take all the classes you want, but you really learn from the experience, the hands-on. And that's why I say that there's really no experts in this field, but there is people with experience.
Yes.
People that have been doing this for a lot longer. You could say, yes, I'm a ghost hunter and I've been ghost hunting for 10 years, but within that 10 years, you probably maybe have been ghost hunting once a month.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So how many times does that really put you out there?
Right.
Not that much.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was just curious about the class because, you do have a lot of people that will just pick up the equipment and start doing it. And then, I'm a ghost hunter. And, when they don't have that much experience, it's not very many people that actually go the extra mile to, take an actual course.
Right. And the thing is, there are people out there that said that I've seen every episode of Ghost Hunters and now I'm an expert in the paranormal. Well, I've seen every episode of Grey's Anatomy. That does not make me an expert surgeon. I'm sorry.
It does make you high on the list in Stacy's book of cool people, though.
I love that show.
It's her favorite show, so.
But, that's just a prime example is it's becoming a society of monkey see, monkey do.
Mm-hmm.
And so just because what you see on TV does not mean that it's done the correct way. People tend to forget that a lot of times, a lot of this is meant for entertainment. We've, for those of us that have done an actual investigation, it's a lot of sitting around, waiting in the dark, waiting for something to happen. And it doesn't always happen. That's not going to sell a show.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You got to have the drama. A prime example of this is when it comes to drama on television shows. Let's say The Bachelor. All right.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people like to watch The Bachelor. If you watch these shows, you'll find out that This is a show where, the Bachelor is going to start, voting some of these, ladies off the show, I'm no longer interested in you. You're out of here. Now, if one of these ladies caused a lot of drama on the show, she will be held onto the show till the very end. Even if the Bachelor doesn't like her, she will stay on till the very end because she produces a lot of drama throughout the show.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's like MTV had the Real World. Same thing.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. People that cause a lot of drama will stay on, even if the person in charge wants them out in the very beginning. I don't want this person on the show. Well, I'm sorry, she's got to stay. The producers will make that person, will let them stay till the very end because, again, they cause a lot of drama. And the same thing with the ghost hunting shows. They like that drama.
Yeah.
So
it's unfortunate. Very unfortunate. It's
But, and I'm just getting to the point where it's just, that's what a lot of this is it's a lot of entertainment. So don't take it all serious,
Right.
I would love to get into the field and have a show and help to bring the credibility back to the field, to help, bring a new way of investigating the paranormal, because I think we're all lost. There's so many of us that are just lost, wandering around with our heads cut off, hoping to find some answers as to what's going on out there. A lot of people in this field are not truly focused.
Right.
And so that's all I try to do is I just try to bring the credibility back to this.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I hate about it is that since, the 2004, 2005 time period, there has been all this stuff put into the canon, the official ghost hunting canon of this terminology or this means this. And just from doing it, like you're talking about, we all have different tells for when something's interacting with us. I know, Stacy gets a headache. I get a dry mouth and things like this. It's just different little tells for everybody. And they don't tell you things like that. You kind of have to cater it for who you are and the experience you're going to have. So absolutely, feel that. So I'm interested, what, maybe not the long form of it, but just what would that better paranormal television show if Ross Allison was, doing it, if they came to you and they're like, look, it's a clean slate. We want you to do what you do best. We want you to come out here and show people the television show. Don't worry about the entertainment part. We're not going to have the producers up your butt. Just what would it look like?
Well, gosh, now you put me out there. Going to give away all my great ideas.
Well, you don't have to do that, but just,
no.
Sort of nutshell.
One of the things that I would like to see is some of the devices out there to be removed from the field. I really would like to see, because there's a lot of them that are manipulating the audience.
Right.
They're manipulating the ghost hunters as well.
Right.
There's a lot of devices out there that are very suggestive. A lot of the apps on people's phones, that annoys me the most when I see people pull out their phone and want to use their phone for ghost hunting.
Right.
People don't understand that a lot of these apps are made for entertainment purposes, and it'll even say there in the small print. What some of these devices, and it's not just the apps on the phone, a lot of these devices that are being used for ghost hunting are utilizing GPS, they're utilizing voice recognition software, and they're also utilizing now smart software as well. Now that we have the capability of like Siri and Alexa, we can now manipulate the software to where we ask a question, we can easily get an intelligent answer out of it because the software understands what you're asking.
Right.
So, and when it uses GPS, now these devices know where they're at. So they'll know that you're at Waverly Hills.
Right.
And they'll have certain words in their database that they'll produce while you're at this place, making your experience more credible. When it uses voice recognition software, it'll repeat words that it hears. So when it hears you calling out somebody's name, it'll wait a few and then it'll repeat that name.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That is the biggest problem we have in this field. And these devices are used on popular television shows as well.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it's crazy.
And it's just, and they charge big money for a lot of this stuff. I've seen people, and it makes me mad because I know people that struggle, paycheck to paycheck, but I see them saving $300 to buy this certain device that they think is the most incredible device in the ghost hunting field.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case.
Right. Absolutely, man. And what a good point that is, because they seem to get more and more expensive because you have to have the, the flux capacitor 9.0.
Well, the thing is, if it's seen on a ghost hunting show, it's got to be credible.
Yeah.
Or the fact of the matter is, if it's not producing results, people aren't going to pay big money for it.
Right.
So you got to have something that produces big results.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I would just like to see it go back to our roots.
Mm-hmm.
EVPs, one of the most amazing phenomena. When you're in a controlled environment and everybody's being quiet and you ask a question and you get a direct answer. That is one of the most amazing things when it comes to true paranormal phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people have become so desensitized to the EVP phenomena that it just makes me so mad. There was a time period where if we got in a controlled environment, say we had a camera filming the recorder as we're doing this, we go back to listen to it and we have a gasp or we have just a small yes or no or something. That was the biggest thing ever, and I think people have lost sight of the fact because of these television shows that's amazing. You're communicating intelligently with a ghost.
All right. Well, and another thing too, another problem we have is we don't have a protocol to follow when it comes to the paranormal. I think that's one of the things that we really do need is a certain protocol that we all agree on and that we all follow. Because what happens now is when anybody submits evidence, we all second guess it. Mm-hmm. Because we don't know how they actually captured the phenomena. Now, if we knew they followed protocol, then we'd be able to trust them.
Right.
So until we have a stricter protocol and we all follow a certain protocol, we're always going to be second guessing anybody's evidence.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
With all the places you've been, and God knows you've been in many, I got to ask, is there anything left on your bucket list? Like is there a place out there that you're like, I have to go to this place. I have to go to this place, investigate this place. Is there one of those for you?
To be honest with you, I can't think of anything right now. I've been to all 50 states. I've been to a good, 20% of the world, other countries.
Right.
Now, I could tell you other countries I'd like to go to. I haven't been to Australia yet. And I'm sure there's going to be some good haunts out there that I'd like to check out.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard because I have to be thankful for the fact that I have had the opportunity to investigate some of the most amazing haunted places all around the world.
That's really awesome.
So, and a lot of people say, how do I do it? Well, I'm a single guy. Come on. I don't have kids to take care of. So, that makes it easier for, to have the budget to travel around the world.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, we have about 2 more minutes with you, and it just went really quickly. It was really interesting. Did. But since we have a couple minutes left, tell everyone where they can find your books or anything that you're doing, and if you have anything coming up.
Well, unfortunately, due to the virus, all my stuff has been canceled. We are trying, though, through Spooked in Seattle. We're looking at doing some of my lectures that you can log in through Zoom and see some of my lectures. So I'm trying that to see if that will be a fun outlet that people would be interested in.
Oh, wow.
So I think my first one that I'm going to try for online is haunted toys.
Okay.
So if anybody's interested in that, just go to spookedinseattle.com and we'll get that posted for you, or follow us on Facebook at Spooked in Seattle. And we'll get that up there for you guys, and you can check that out. So that'll be my first one, is going to be haunted toys. Me and David do have another book coming out shortly, Haunted Churches, for our haunted series.
Oh, wow.
So that will hopefully be coming out within a month or two. So I'm looking forward to that. And then right after that, shortly after that, we will have Haunted Historic Hotels of the West Coast. So that's the next book that's after that. So let's see. If you're interested in reading some of my books, definitely check out Amazon for all of that. You can just type in Ross Allison, and you'll see all my books. That's available for you. If you want to check out my group, AGHOST, the Advanced Ghost Hunters of Seattle-Tacoma. We are the oldest ghost hunting group in the Pacific Northwest. You can go to our website at aghost.org. And I always encourage people to follow me on Facebook, Ross Allison Ghost Hunter. I do a lot of live feeds from a lot of the places that I visit, even some of the places I visit all over the world. So I think the last live feed I did was when we investigated, Sane Asylum in New York. God, why can't I think of it now? Oh my God. It's the one out just outside Buffalo. Anyways. It's been on all those television shows. Come on, you guys.
I'm having the same problem. I was sitting here. I was like, oh, wait a second. We're even on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I know you're on the East Coast. Why can't I think of it? It's, anyways.
Yeah, that place.
So, yeah, that place. But yeah, I did a live feed from there. So that was kind of fun. So a lot of times when I visit a lot of these haunted locations, I'll do a live video shoot so you guys can join me. So definitely check that out. I think that's pretty much about it. So
yeah. Well, I mean, that's quite a bit. When is the Zoom going to be?
I think we were thinking about next Friday.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but yeah, we're trying that to see if that'll work. We got right now we're doing a true crimes one on Gary Ridgway.
Right.
So one of my tour guides is going to be doing that. So this is our first time testing it out to see if we can use it in the tourism, because I'm afraid that once we are let loose from our homes, that tourism is not going to be the same it was. So I think a lot of our businesses out there in the tourism, ghost tours and places like that, we're all going to be struggling to try and get people to come visit us, and rightfully so. I understand, there's still going to be a lot of fear once people are out there. I think there's going to be a lot of fear until there's going to be a cure for this.
Yeah. And so everybody go and do what you can. Buy some books, help him out. Cause this is something that he does to make a living. And I know we're out of time, but I'm just going to say thank you so much for joining us. Cause it lived up to it for me.
Yeah.
So, really,
thank you.
And please, everybody, if you haven't read any, go buy a book. Thank you.
Yes. And come back with us after the break for our segment on something strange about this week.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. For more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you addicted to the woo? Good. Me too. This is Dave Scott, and you can woo it up with me every Monday through Friday, starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, for 3 hours of great entertainment in the subjects you love. UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, intuition. Yes, we hit it all 5 days a week. Look for us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, my friends, we own the night.
Hello, everyone. This is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hey Spaced Out Radio fans, it's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckford, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
It's now that time to loosen up your mind and enjoy the weird we find, because there's something strange about this week.
There certainly is. Well, that was such an interesting guest, and we talked a lot about Seattle, so I'll just go back to something that we mentioned during the interview. Of course, from this week, it is the anniversary of Kurt Cobain's death.
Yes.
I'm just going to say it that way.
Yeah, the unfortunate demise of Kurt Cobain, which is actually right now, April 5th, and in most everywhere we're listening, but I think we still have a few minutes left.
A few minutes for it to get to be April 5th. So in 1994, of course, Kurt Cobain was supposedly killed himself with a shotgun, and he wasn't found until...
Like the words allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. He wasn't found until 3 days later on April 8th. And, you know, everybody knows who Kurt Cobain is. It's not like we have to give a big history on him or tell people who he was or where he came from. But he did struggle, you know, with depression and heroin addiction. So the whole suicide thing did seem likely, I suppose. But there is a lot of conspiracy out there that he did not do what they say he did.
Yeah, and I mean, there always is with people that are icons for a generation. You know, you're going to have people that loved them so much. It's hard for them to believe what they were capable of doing and what they, you know, what they did. I know recently there was a show on Chris Benoit, who was a WWE world champion, for those who don't know. But Chris Benoit was one of my favorite wrestlers. And you know, when I've been in wrestling for, 20 years, he was very much somebody that I just adored, but he killed his family and himself. And there's still people, right after that, when all the evidence pointed right to what he did, they don't want to believe it because, it's somebody that they love so much. I don't know if, because I've always been the same way about the Kurt Cobain thing. It's always been like, no, there's no way, how did he put that where he did? And all that, to spare the gruesome details, but it's nonetheless, it's a very mournful day for those of us who love grunge music.
Yes. So. And of course, his death, he was 27, and every time someone that's famous, a musician or an actor, passes away when they're 27, it brings up the age-old
27 Club.
The 27 Club.
So creepy.
It is creepy. And, it's not like that it comes up for every age. I mean, 27 is like an unusually high number.
Yes.
And so I looked it up, and there is a list, like it's a Wikipedia list, but they list out all of the musicians, not just musicians, like musicians, actors, just famous people that died when they were 27. And the list goes back to 1892. The first person on the list died in 1892. And according to their list, there are 71 quote members, not really members because it's not a real club, but there are some notable ones that we would know. Do you think you can name any?
Oh, I can name most. Why don't you just...
I figured you could. You know most of these. Janis Joplin, of course, died of a heroin overdose. She was 27. Jim Morrison.
Yeah. It's so crazy that Jim was only 27.
I know.
Have you noticed that, like, some of the adults in years past were way more adult looking than...
Right. Like I don't know why that is. They didn't look like kids for a very long time.
I think pretty much you're going to name everybody that ever influenced me.
Possibly. Of course, I think his cause of death was listed as heart failure. There was a man on here that I didn't know. His name's Brian Jones, and he started the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, I can't believe you just said that in public.
Well, I am not the biggest music aficionado.
Right.
When I grew up in a very strict religious household. I was not allowed to listen to rock music.
Really?
So I didn't really listen to a lot until after I met John, and he introduced me to all kinds.
It was so much fun.
Music.
It was so much fun.
Yeah, I got a music education.
Yeah, you do have a sister that happens to know quite a bit, though.
She does. She knows a lot about everything. She's very knowledgeable.
Okay.
So Jimi Hendrix, of course, was on that list. Kristen Pfaff, she was the bassist for Hole, surprisingly enough.
Yeah.
Passed away at 27. Amy Winehouse. And a couple notable actors that were on the list. Jonathan Brandis. And he's more of a recent one. And Anton Yelchin.
Oh, what a loss.
Chekhov. His was just tragic because it was just an accident. Some of these were freak accidents, which is what makes it even weirder. You can't just put a stamp on it like, oh, people just get depressed when they're that age or something like that.
No, it's a very real, I mean, it's creepy, man. It
is.
If I had acquired fame before the age 27, I believe I might have locked myself in a storage unit or something that entire year. I mean, because it's really creepy. And
I think even Amy Winehouse talked about it a couple years before she turned 27. She was worried about the 27 thing, and then she ended up dying when she was 27.
Yeah, she wasn't exactly the biggest surprise.
No, I'm gonna say she probably wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, as far as surprises go and all,
right.
A few of these are not really that far. I mean, they are what they are, I guess. But I'm just saying. I mean, I'm trying to be nice here. But there's been a lot of musicians that I love that have been part of that club, if you will. And it is weird, man. Is it a curse?
I don't know.
Go back to the one person who maybe had a flop when they were 27, and they're like,
and every musician that turns 27, yeah.
There's been weirder curses.
All right, so let's go on to something else, and this is also an April 5th, but this is from 1815, and this is about a volcanic eruption at Mount Tambora, and this is a volcano that's in the Dutch East Indies. It's basically right off of Indonesia,
kind of between
Indonesia and Australia. And so,
nice little restaurant near there.
On April 5th, 1815, there was a very large eruption, and it was followed by a lot of thunderous detonation sounds. And I mean, these things were heard up to over 800 miles away. Like, it was huge. But that wasn't the end of it. The next morning there was volcanic ash that began to fall. People could hear sounds that sounded like firing guns. But the biggest thing that happened was on April 10th. So this was going on for a couple days. So about 7 p.m. on April 10th, the eruptions intensified and 3 plumes rose up and merged. And the whole mountain just turned into a big flowing mass of just lava and liquid fire. There was pumice stones of up to 20 centimeters. It says 7, almost 8 inches in diameter. And they started to rain down, followed by ash. And the whole crazy thing about it is this explosion had a VEI. A VEI is a volcanic explosivity index. That's how they measure how strong it is. So they rated this one a 7.
Right.
Now, the scale only goes from 0 to 8.
Oh, my God.
And they've determined the VEI for more than 5,000 eruptions over the last 10,000 years. Any time a volcano has erupted, they scale it on the scale. And nothing's ever been an 8. 7 is the strongest volcanic eruption there's ever been. Even when Mount Vesuvius erupted and, destroyed Pompeii, that was only a 5.
Wow.
So this was a ridiculous explosion. And they claimed that when the big explosion happened on the 10th, that it blew 41 cubic kilometers of rock and volcanic matter. That's 10 billion tons of stuff.
God.
The mountain went from being 4,300 meters, it's about 14,000 feet, making it one of the tallest peaks. It went from that, after the explosion, it was down to 9,354 feet.
Oh, my God.
Because of all the stuff that blew off. So it was ridiculous. It was the largest observed eruption in recorded history, and the explosion was heard 1,600 miles away, and ash fell at least 810 miles away.
Oh.
So after it erupted, that wasn't even the end of it. There was tsunamis. There was several little tsunamis right there in the Indonesian islands from just that blast. It wasn't even an earthquake. It's just that blast caused a few. It increased the death toll. I think the final death toll was well over 70,000. And the eruption column that went up, it reached an altitude of more than 43 kilometers up in the air. So when all that ash blew up in the air, it stayed there. It was in the atmosphere for a few months to a few years. And they even called that summer the year without a summer.
Oh my God.
That year was the year without a summer because of all the ash, the temperature dropped, and it dropped enough. It was only a degree or two, but it dropped enough that it caused significant agricultural problems around the globe.
Holy cow, man.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And it says that even in places like New Hampshire and Maine and Vermont, there was frosts in June. Now, I know it's pretty cold up there anyway, but usually by June, that stuff's over with. And in June, they even had snow in Albany, New York, and in Maine, and Canada was a lot colder than it normally was. So it never got warm enough to, produce enough food like it was supposed to. It's crazy. It's the craziest thing I've ever read. I loved researching this one because I had never heard of the year without a summer.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly, I have heard of that, but I never put it together. Like it's very interesting though. And how many people did you say died?
There's conflicting reports, but I think that the final total between the volcano, because it destroyed a village, and the tsunamis, all those things, it's right around 70 or 71,000.
And I'm sure, the census wasn't really up to date, I'm sure. So.
No, and, in 1815, people you can't get that word out that quick.
Yeah. I mean, you could blow your thing from the top of the hill. And
you're lighting the fires along the way.
Yeah.
So, tragic and crazy. So this is the anniversary of that biggest explosion, volcanic explosion we've ever seen.
If you hear a bunch of explosions, go ahead and leave the area, just in case.
All right, so let's talk about what happened on April 8th, 1983.
Okay, a little bit more recent.
Yes, a little more recent. This is the anniversary of when David Copperfield, in front of a live audience, made the Statue of Liberty disappear.
Oh, I watched that one on TV.
Did you watch it on TV?
Yeah.
So, of course, David Copperfield, who is still with us, he's 63 years old. He still performs in Vegas, does his illusion shows. He's one of the greatest illusionists of, the time. And he's most famous for his live TV specials that he did in the 80s. And he pulled off some really impressive illusions. Like he walked through the Great Wall of China. He escaped from Alcatraz prison. He even made a Learjet vanish on live TV. But I think that his most famous trick is this, making the Statue of Liberty disappear.
Oh, yeah. It was such a big deal on TV. It was so sensationalized. And
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I don't remember what happened.
Well, you can watch, there's a video, you can watch it. And the way he did it was he raised a giant screen in front of the statue. There's a couple of towers there, and he raised this giant screen in front of the statue. And then when he dropped it, the statue was gone. And they had helicopters flying around, shining spotlights down so that you could see that there wasn't anything there. And it was very elaborate. They had this special platform built. They put lights all the way around it, shining up. They had the helicopters. He had some, what he called, some special cameras contained in lock boxes that were supposedly photographing the act. And he had this radar screen that supposedly showed the statue disappearing during the trick. And so I was reading this article about it, and it gave away how he did it.
Oh, do tell.
And once you read it, it's really simple. I mean, it's not something you would think about, but it was really simple. So because they built the platform, the audience and everybody, they were all on the platform. So when he raised the sheet, there was all this dramatic music playing, and, all this stuff was going on. The entire platform just shifted to the right. So when the screen dropped, the statue was actually behind one of the towers that was beside the screen. So it was just being blocked from view. And because they had all of the lights, you know how it is when you're on a stage?
Yeah.
You have lights in your eyes, you can't really see. So the helicopters were shining lights down in the now empty spot because, you know, they had moved. And all the other lights were in confusion and, you know, sensationalism. Of course, it looked like it had disappeared.
Wow.
And I guess nobody knew any different. It must have been very elaborately done.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of... I mean, how did they not know that?
I don't know.
Somebody's paid off.
I mean, there was a whole live audience there. Do you think they paid off a whole live audience?
I don't know. I mean, how did they work that for TV?
I don't know. You can watch the video. I watched it, and it looks like it disappears. It's very crazy.
No, I refuse to believe this. I believe that he made the Statue of Liberty disappear. And you're just trying to come up with a reason. It does
say, because, you know, the cameras on the radar screen are clearly just props. And it does say that when you're watching it, if you pay very close attention and you watch the radar screen, I think you can see the lights shifting on it where the platform's moving. I didn't notice that myself, but...
Well, I mean, it's in very low D.
Yeah. I was watching a YouTube video, like somebody recording a TV or something.
Yeah,
it was
it's
really
somebody
bad.
recording off rabbit ears in 1983 on their Betamax.
Right.
That has been transferred 5,000 times and then put on YouTube and glorious, what is it, 480 or whatever?
Whatever it is. But David Copperfield did promise that there were no camera tricks involved in the stunt. And he was right. There were no camera tricks.
Right.
So there you go. Pretty awesome. It's too bad he doesn't do stuff like that anymore. People just wouldn't buy it.
The 80s were such a glorious time for those type things.
I know.
I mean, there was always these big TV specials where they were going to do this or do that. My favorite will always be Al Capone's Vault. Geraldo, man.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
I think so, yes.
Tonight, we're going to open Al Capone's Vault. What could be in there? And it went through all this stuff. It's like, could there be bodies?
Was that the one?
Could there be treasure?
They hyped it and hyped it and hyped it. And then...
There's nothing.
There was nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing in there.
Yeah. That's
absolutely
hilarious.
Nothing. I mean, good for him for not faking anything.
Right. For actually doing the legitimate
But I think it's because of him that probably from that point on, they're like, let's go ahead and go in there and put a couple dead bodies and like a message in a bottle or something like that.
Throw some powder out, make it a curse.
He still hasn't got over it. Between that and that, when he had like the Jerry Springer top show,
right,
and somebody like the white power guy threw the chair and broke his nose, and he wore like that mask.
It's got like PTSD now.
He wore that stupid like nose shield like an NBA player,
right,
for a long time. This poor guy has been through. Then in the last few years, somebody released a selfie that he sent out to somebody where it's like Geraldo standing in front of a mirror in a way you never want to see Geraldo. So
I haven't seen that. Please don't send it to me.
I just love this guy's luck. Like, and he still has that brazen ability to go out there and be on TV. You know, it's like it's wonderful. You got to admire somebody.
Yes, you do. With that kind of gumption, is that what that is?
Well, it's something. I don't know, gumption or something. It's something.
All right, well, let's do one more here. We got a few more minutes. April 9th, 1865. This one's pretty famous. Probably don't have to tell everybody what it is. But, of course, at Appomattox Courthouse, General Robert E. Lee surrendered his Confederate Army to General Ulysses S. Grant in the parlor of the Wilmer McLean home. So we have investigated the McLean home.
Yes, we being probably, I think, the only people ever. You know, and it was really cool. Our guest last week was actually... hooked us up with that, gave us a call. He was a listener of the show at the time. He was listening to our podcast, got a hold of us, like, hey, how would you guys like to be the first people to investigate the Appomattox Courthouse?
Yes.
Well, okay, sure. So, yeah, we investigated it. It was pretty...
it's like there's a whole complex there because it's like a state park, which is why you can't normally investigate it. And there's like 8 buildings. And out of those 8 buildings, I think we pretty much concentrated on the McLean house, the prison, actual courthouse, the 1867 jail, and the Meeks store.
Yeah.
And there were other buildings, and we did go in all the buildings, but I think especially the jail had tons of activity.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in that jail.
Yes.
So, some interesting stuff about that investigation that we did. There was a what do you call him? A park ranger. And the park ranger decided to not be a park ranger anymore after that night.
Yeah, he had to stay all night with us because, he was the security there and, we were on the property. So he had to stay and unlock things and watch us.
Yeah, he decided he didn't want to do that anymore. Nope. And we've had that effect on quite a few people.
He won't even tell us why.
Yeah, he
won't tell us the story.
He won't come off of the reason. Something affected him, but he doesn't want to talk about it. But there was other investigators that were supposed to show up that night, and there was somebody that got snake bit beforehand. There was somebody that totaled their car.
On the way.
Yeah, on the way there, trying to come there, much like a Ed and Lorraine story, they were on their way somewhere and something appeared, stuff like that.
Right.
There was a lot of people that were supposed to be there that were not there, but it let us go. And, Alan got to go, and it's a very interesting scenario the way it worked out, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. The way the certain people were there that needed to be there, and I think somebody had to come instead of the guy that got in an accident, and it was crazy. Whole thing was crazy. It was an awesome experience, though.
It was, and I don't think anybody's done it since. So there was nothing overwhelming, but there was EVP. There was some really good activity with EMF and things like that.
And the overall feeling of the place, because it's so historic, is just very. You can really feel it.
Yeah, and that one EVP was like, we're going to do it again. I don't know. It was something about the South. I don't know. But good stuff, man.
All right. So we've got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal hypnotizing our senses with The Day After. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Always tip your bartender and show some mad love for the guitar deity himself.
A special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, in your big rigs, at work, the asylum, in our chat rooms, wherever you may be.
Remember, this show is copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thanks for sharing your Saturday with us, because together, my friends, we own the nights.
Now, let Bumblefoot drive us back to reality until we take the trip again. Good night.
Good night.